Welcome back. We have almost proved Lagrange's theorem, which says that every natural number is a sum of at most 4 squares. We have the statement in front of you in this slide, and now we are really going to prove this result. So, we have that the form x square plus y square plus z square plus w square is multiplicative. Let me recall it for you that we have given two proofs of this. We actually proved that x square plus y square plus z square plus w square is determinant of a special type of matrix. And further, if you take any two such matrices and take their product, then the product is again a matrix of the same form. And therefore, the numbers which are represented by these forms have the multiplicativity property, because if you have x square plus y square plus z square plus w square into a square plus b square plus c square plus d square, you will write both of them as determinant of some matrices of that form. Then you will take the product of the matrices, and determinant of a product is product of the determinant. So, determinant of that product of those two matrices will give you the required form. This is one way of proving, which was a somewhat advanced proof, because we use the concept of a matrix, its determinant and so on. But in the last lecture actually I had written down the whole expression for you. If we had x square plus y square plus z square plus w square into x prime square plus y prime square plus z prime square plus w prime square, then I actually wrote down the whole 4 numbers whose squares add up to the product of these two numbers. So, that is a second proof. So, therefore, we have that this form is multiplicative. Further, every prime, whether it is 2 or not, is represented by this form, and hence every natural number is a sum of at most 4 squares. Remember also that our proof is somewhat constructive. For 2 we have constructed the numbers whose sum of squares give you 2, and similarly for every prime the method that we have given will also tell you how to construct the expression for p as sum of 4 squares. And once you have it for every prime, then for every integer you write it as product of primes, and then for each prime factor you have the expression. So, you have the expression for n. This is something which is very important, because if you wanted to write from the scratch for an element n, for a number n as a sum of 4 squares, then the standard algorithms in computers may not work. For instance, there is this greedy algorithm which would say that for every n you take this largest square before that, and then you have a smaller number, you write that number as sum of squares and so on, but this thing may not always work. For instance, if you happen to choose your number to be 32, 32 has the property that it is between two squares 25 and 36, and therefore greedy algorithm will say that you write 32 as 25 plus 7. And once you have written it as 25 plus 7, 25 is a square, 7 is a much smaller number, you should be able to write 7 as a sum of squares, but we have already observed that 7 needs 4 squares. You cannot write 7 as a sum of 3 squares. So, in all for 32 you have used 5 squares, 25 plus 4 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1. 19 biquadrates. Biquadrates means some fourth powers and so on. So, Waring said that every integer, every positive integer is a sum of at most 9 cubes. It is a sum of at most 19 fourth powers and so on. So, this so on is very peculiar. What is so on? What is the meaning of so on? So, let me explain the meaning of so on to you in this slide. Waring made this explicit conjecture. He said that take any natural number k which is bigger than 1. Then he proved that there is an integer g which is g of k because it depends on the integer k. So, Waring conjectured that there is a g with the property that every natural number is a sum of at most g kth powers. I told you that you could actually have obtained every number as a sum of squares using the greedy algorithm, which would tell you that every number is a sum of squares. Of course, we know that 1 is a square, so it is not difficult to prove that every integer is a sum of squares. It is not difficult to prove that every integer is a sum of kth powers because 1 is a kth power. But we do not want to write 20 as 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 20 times. We would like to have a finite number. We would like to know that there is a number g depending on k such that my 20 is a sum of at most g many kth powers. This was stated in 1770 by Waring, and again about 130 years later this was proved. Waring also conjectured that the number g3 is 9. So, he said that you need 9 cubes. So, g3 is 9 has two statements in it. It means that for every n, 9 cubes are sufficient, and moreover that there is a number which requires 9 cubes. For instance, Lagrange's theorem said that every integer is a sum of 4 squares, at most 4 squares, and we noted that 7 actually needs 4 squares. You cannot write every integer as sum of 3 squares because 7 is not a sum of 3 squares. So, you need to have 4 of them. The squares need to come 4 of them. You cannot just have 3 squares and they will sum to every natural number, that is not true. So, g of 2 is 4, and Waring conjectured that g of 3 is 9 and further that g of 4 is 19. So, he noted that 9 and 19 are needed, but he also conjectured that these are enough. What is a conjecture? Conjecture is a statement which a mathematician really believes to be true. And further he proved that the g of 3 is 9 and g of 4 is 19, and as I have remarked, we already have that g of 2 is 4 by Lagrange. So, this was stated in 1770, and about 140 years later Hilbert proved it in the last century, 20th century. Hilbert proved this statement and he proved the GK conjecture, which is that for every k he proved that there is such a finite number g with the property that every natural number is a sum of at most g kth powers. This is the statement that he proved. He did not prove that g3 is 9, neither did he prove that g4 is equal to 19. He proved that such a gk exists for every k in n. For every natural number n, of course bigger than 1, he proved that a gk exists. And this is a very important theorem, and therefore, there was another proof of this theorem given by these famous mathematicians Hardy and Littlewood, and they proved this result using what is called the circle method. So, this is a method which was developed by Ramanujan essentially while dealing with the partition function and asymptotics of this function, but this was developed later by Hardy and Littlewood, and so it is called Hardy-Littlewood circle method, and using this method as an application they gave a proof of Hilbert's theorem of Waring's conjecture. So, they proved the conjecture made by Waring once again that such a GK exists. Once you prove that such a GK exists, now you would want to know what are the GKs for every K. What are the numbers G3, what is G4, what is G5, what is G6 and so on. These are the things one would want to know, and mathematicians started working on this. Further, let me just recall this for you that 7 does require 4 squares. You cannot write 7 as a sum of 3 squares. Similarly, 23 will require 9 cubes. So, 23 is a number which does require 9 cubes. You cannot write it as a sum of 8 cubes, and you also have that 79 will require 19 fourth powers. In fact, it is easy to give what number. So, 9 and 19, these are the lower bounds for G3 and G4, and in fact it is easy to get these lower bounds. What you have to notice is that there are some integers such that the only kth powers less than or equal to those integers is 1. So, if you start from 1 power k, which is 1, and go all the way up to 2 power k, then until you reach 2 power k, the only integer, the only kth power that you have is 1. So, you will need to use 1, 1, 1, 1, 1 to write any number from 1 to 2 power k minus 1 as a sum of kth powers. And if you then go further until 3 power k, then the only numbers at your disposal are 2 power k and 1 power k. So, what one notices is that between these numbers 1 to 3 power k minus 1, there is one particular number which is called 2 power k plus integral part of 3 by 2 power k minus 1. So, this number is the one which requires only 2 power k, which has only 2 power k's and 1 power k's to write it, and there is only one effective way to write this number as a sum of kth powers, that would give you a lower bound on Gk. So, similar things can be done by us for the particular cases where k is 3 and k is 4, and then we see that 23 is the number which requires 9 cubes and 79 requires 19 biquadrates or 19 fourth powers. So, these are the lower bounds. We wanted to now prove the upper bounds, which is a more difficult thing. We wanted to prove that every n can be written as sum of 9 cubes, every n can be written as sum of 19 biquadrates. That is very difficult, and there are other problems G5, G6 and so on. So, around 1912, I told you that Hilbert proved the existence of GK in 1909. From 1909 to 1912, in a series of papers, Wieffrich proved that G3 is 9. Then S.S. Pillai, this is an Indian mathematician once again contemporary to Ramanujan, he proved that G6 is 73. Remember, we are looking at G3 and G4, G3 is 9, G4 is 19, there are G5 also in between, but Pillai proved that G6 is 73, and in about 25 years this mathematician by name Chen Jingrun, he proved that G5 is 37. So, G3 was computed, G5 was computed and G6 was computed. The problem of finding G4 remained elusive until 1986. So, almost till 20 more years this problem was not solved until 1986 when an Indian mathematician by name R. Balasubramaniam and his collaborators solved it. So, this was a remarkable result, and this result put India once again on the world map as far as number theory is concerned. It was such a remarkable result. So, this is one way. Waring's problem is one way by which we can generalize the theorem of Lagrange, which is that since you are writing every number as a sum of squares, you can ask how many cubes are needed, how many fourth powers are needed and so on, and this is intimately related to many other things in mathematics like circle method and so on, as well as the techniques which are developed by R. Balasubramaniam and so on. So, this is one way the theorem can be generalized. There are another ways. Similar to squares, we have figurate numbers or what are also known as polygonal numbers. So, squares are the numbers which can be written in a grid of squares. This is 1, 2 and then you have a grid of squares to write 9. And so on. So, we have actually a square number is called a square because you can put that number in a square grid where each side is represented by the square root of that number. So, 16 is the number of elements which are put in a square grid consisting of 4 rows and 4 columns. So, these are the triangular numbers, and now there are also pentagonal numbers. So, you have the trivial pentagon consisting of only one dot, and then you have the pentagon of side where each side has 2 edges, each edge has 2 vertices, and so you have the number to be 5. This I have taken this picture from Wikipedia. So, we see that as you go on increasing the size, so here this is P1, P2 is 5, P3 is 12, P4 is 22, P5 is 35 and so on. So, every n, for every n we have a pentagonal number, and there is a formula that one can write down for the pentagonal numbers. And of course, we have polygonal numbers for higher n-gons. We have hexagonal numbers, these are for hexagons. We have heptagonal numbers for heptagons, octagonal numbers, nonagonal numbers, decagonal numbers and so on. So, what we would actually be interested in finding out whether every natural number is a sum of a fixed number of polygonal numbers of a fixed type. Is it true that any given natural number n is a sum of a fixed numbers? So, suppose only g many of k polygonal numbers. Is there a g for gk, just like we had the Waring's conjecture? Is there a g equal to gk for every k such that every natural number is a sum of g kth polygonal numbers? This is the question that one would want to ask, and our Lagrange's theorem says that n is sum of 4 squares. So, you have 4 squares whose sum is every natural number. Similar to this, you may have heard, this is a very famous remark by Gauss, who had written this as num equal to delta plus delta plus delta. So, this means that every natural number n is a sum of at most 3 triangular numbers. This was proved by Gauss. He had noted this in his diary, and the date for that entry is in 1796. So, Gauss had noted this, that norm is delta plus delta plus delta. You need at most 3 triangular numbers to write every natural number. And we can ask what would happen for higher polygonal numbers. So, Richard Guy in 1994 proved that every natural number is a sum of at most 3 pentagonal numbers, but he generalized the earlier concept of a pentagonal number. Using his slightly generalized concept, he could prove that every n is actually a sum of at most 3 pentagonal numbers. However, beyond this not much seems to be known about this. So, this is the question of writing every natural number as a sum of polygonal numbers of a fixed type. And so, just like for squares we had the polygonal numbers, similarly for cubes, now cube is the number of elements which are represented in a 3-dimensional grid, just like a square was represented in a 2-dimensional grid. So, a cube is represented in a 3-dimensional grid. So, you can ask whether there are generalizations of polygonal numbers in the 3rd dimension. So, are there polyhedral numbers? Indeed, there are polyhedral numbers. For every dimension there are numbers, and you can ask this question whether every natural number is a sum of a fixed number of polyhedral numbers of a fixed type, and nothing much seems to have been done on this, of course, which means that it is not an easy thing to compute, but even then I think there is quite a lot that can be done in this direction. This concludes our discussion for the second type of generalization after Lagrange's theorem. First one was the Waring's problem, where we generalize from squares to cubes, cubes to 4th powers and so on. Second was that we observed that squares represent some just certain geometrical figure, and so we considered all geometrical figures. There is one more generalization, and that is more interesting. It refers to one of the well known Indian origin mathematicians by name Manjul Bhargava. So, we will come to that in our next lecture. I will see you then. Thank you very much.